Jessica and I are both international journalists, so we do a lot of reporting abroad. And 2 years ago, we were headed to the Middle East. We were going to Syria and northern Iraq to report on Iraqi refugees in the region. And in anticipation of that reporting project, we were talking to some local people that were in the Middle Eastern community in the Pacific Northwest. And really, like a few days before we were about to leave, one woman we interviewed said, "Oh, have you heard of the Sam Malkandi case? Because he actually was just deported back to northern Iraq, where you guys are headed. You should see if you could get a chance to talk to him." So we sort of scrambled to get in touch with his family and to find out where he was, and he agreed to speak with us.
Was he pretty open to this?
He was. This was the first time that he spoke about the case to the media, as far as I'm aware. He had really recently been deported within, I think, the last 4 or 5 months before we met with him. And so it was his first opportunity to really talk about the experience from his perspective and kind of tell the whole story. So what was going to be, I think, just a one-day interview turned into, we ended up extending our stay in northern Iraq. Hung out with him for a couple of weeks, about a week and a half, and did a number of interviews.
The stigma, I imagine, is outrageous. What does the film address that and just opening up that dialogue and maybe erasing some of that stigma around that?
It's a great question. I mean, there's sort of two things there. One, it's really worth mentioning that the Malkandis had an incredibly strong community around them, and almost everyone that knew them or came in contact with them wanted to help them. They're that kind of family. They're those kinds of people. So they've had a lot of support, and that doesn't mean that they haven't dealt with stigma and prejudice. I think one of the most obvious examples of that, the fact that they continue to struggle for citizenship, and so they sort of live in this limbo where they feel really insecure and like they don't know what's coming next. As far as the film addressing it, I think just insofar as taking one case, one of these cases connected to immigration detention, one of these cases connected to sort of terrorist allegations, and really diving deep and saying, like, these are the people behind these allegations, these are the people in immigration detention, here's a face of deportation. They're real people with complicated stories and families and people that miss them. I think that's the best that we can hope to do with a film like this as far as addressing things like stigma.
Absolutely.